Being able to vibe code an app from scratch is a game changer, and it's natural to want to jump right into development. Whether you're building a personal app or an app to be shared with others, you still need to invest in solid planning to make sure it will actually work. I'm going to use AI Studio as a thought partner to build a clear plan before creating any code. I'll start by asking the AI questions to help me gather requirements. From there, we can refine those ideas into a customized project plan, also known as a spec doc. Then I'll set up simple rules to keep the AI on track and prevent it from making things up. By the end, you'll see how this workflow turns our plan into a reliable prototype. Let's get started. For this demo, I'll take on the role of a project manager. On a typical project, I track dozens of tasks that depend on each other. Here's a problem I run into. When one task is delayed, I can't see how it affects the rest of the project or the launch date. So I want to build an app that shows how the tasks connect and how one delay affects every step after it. Cool, so now we're in the AI Studio playground. This is the place where you can actually chat and experiment with all of the Gemini models. I'm going to use Gemini 3.5 Flash to create a prompt for us. I'm going to start by just describing my problem here. I want to build an app that takes a project plan and visually shows me how a delay in one task may affect the entire project and the final launch. Help me plan it out. So now when I hit run, Gemini is actually going to think through this problem and come up with a solution. It's given us 5 phases, and I don't really want the graph. I want something far simpler in order to see the projects. So I'm going to say, I am not so sure about the graph representation of the project. Can we come up with a simplified view? This might be way too much to give to one prompt. It's effectively a large doc, and we don't want to confuse the model with too many details either. So I'm going to find a good middle ground here. And so I'm also going to follow up and say, I also want you to write this as a solid 1-paragraph prompt for a vibe coding tool to explain what to build, capture all of the critical details in your prompt. And so what's helpful here and why we're doing this planning is because if we hadn't, you would have already seen it add a graph that it thought was a solution. But maybe I wanted something else in my head. So what's fun about this is because I followed up with saying, I'm not so sure about the graph representation, it's now coming up with a few other ideas. It's saying, okay, maybe the complex web is too much. We could just view it as a hierarchical list or a spreadsheet. This back and forth is effectively the partnership you're going to build with Gemini as you go about building things. You're going to go back and forth and get to a solution that you like, and it actually solves the problem you're going after. I like the idea that it's something much simpler, and it looks like it's even created a 1-paragraph prompt for us for a vibe coding tool. So it's saying it's building a single app. It's defined some technical details for us. And then you can see it's also covered some of the UI we're going to get. So it's saying you want a simulate day slider. That's really interesting. A responsive Gantt. I like that as well. And then it seems to highlight the ripple effect in the timeline by showing things fading when a delay takes place. All of this sounds really cool to me. So I'm going to take this now and go and build an app with it. So we have a great prompt, but I want to make sure I'm not missing any details. So now I can actually give Gemini some context and see if there's other things I should be considering in this prompt for the app that I'm making. So notice the plus button here at the bottom. If I click that and hit drive, I can then go to my folder of my project, choose the project charter doc. And now Gemini can use that as context to help us refine our prompt. So I can say, read the charter doc below. Are there any other questions or things I should be considering when making this app we've been talking about? So now we'll give it this context, and Gemini is going to look at all of that and tell us if there are other things that we should be considering. This is, again, another nice way to go back and forth with a model and build together. So you can see it's giving us a bunch of detail for what we should potentially consider. For instance, it's noticed that, App Store approval here takes 7 to 14 days. This isn't active work done by the team, it's a waiting period. Your app needs to support lag time and dependencies. So that's another interesting idea that I hadn't even thought of that we could now incorporate in our app. Another one you're noticing is it's mentioning the budgets that it's picked up from the charter, and that a daily cost rate with certain tasks could also be helpful to see in that view. So these are all great ideas that the model has picked up and given us to work with. So now I'm going to say, incorporate all of those things you picked up on in that original prompt you gave me. So incorporate all of these catches you've made in the original prompt. Cool. So now we've got the final revised prompt. So let's turn that into something we can build with. To do that, I just have to click the 3 dots, click make this an app. And now I'm going to be headed to build mode, and it's copied our prompt. But notice it's also copied all the other things it said before our prompt. And so this is something just to watch out for, because what it's doing is it's just porting over that chat into this build screen. But you can just clean that up by going to the part where your actual prompt is, deleting all the other stuff, and now you have just your prompt. So this prompt effectively contains all the features we care about and the constraints, making it a pretty nicely summarized version of our spec doc. You had the requirements earlier and all of that outlined, and now you have something that an AI model can follow to build off of. Now I just need to attach one last thing, which is our actual project plan. So if I go to Drive and select the Google Sheet for our project, it has the entire plan outlined there. And so now I can say, I have also attached a Google Sheet of our project plan. Make sure you base the app off of this. I usually like to say something like make sure, because the model can sometimes go in a direction where it's using it more as a reference rather than something that it's actually following all the way through. So now all I have to do is hit build. Okay, so we've got the app built, and you can see models love to brand things. So it even called it Project Ripple. Now, there's no place where I've called it Project Ripple. That's okay. And we can rebrand our app again later. But you'll see that it's actually added all of the different phases and tasks based off of our sheet. So the market research to the UI UX design phases, which I believe are all mapping to our app perfectly. You'll also notice that it's added this delay slider that we talked about, the 5-day week as an option, and even budgets as a contingency. So if I mess around with any of these things, let's say the delay slider, you can see how it's pushing out different tasks that depended on it. This is exactly what we wanted. And what's awesome about this is this prototype is pretty personal to me. It's personal to the sheet that I gave it. It's personal to the charter that I gave it. And it understood all those constraints to build something that I can actually use and share with the team. That gives us a working prototype built from a documented plan. Next, we'll test it and fix what breaks. Investing time in a plan isn't just a preliminary step. It's the strategy that transforms a one-shot prompt into a reliable tool. And by defining the constraints early, you'll move from passive prompting to leading the build. Now it's your turn to start planning your first app build. I can't wait to see what you create.